Mrs. Buchanan, and I am a third grade teacher at Fountain City Elementary School. And I am so glad that you chose to join me today for a fun summer reading activity. How awesome is it that you chose to keep your reading brain strong over the summer? That's a really great choice. Let's get to it. So today you can follow along with me in this video as we read together, but you can also find any paper handouts for today's activity in the Student Resource tab right on the Knox County Schools webpage. Now today we are going to be reading, talking, and preparing to write in response to what we read. And reading, talking, and writing are the three keys to becoming a stronger, more fluent reader. Now, before we get to our activities today, I have a few helpful tips for you just in case you are having any trouble understanding this video. Now, if you are watching along on a TV, you can turn on closed captions if they are available. You can ask an adult to help you if you're not sure how. Another strategy to help you is to adjust the playback speed to slow down this video if possible. You can also use the pause feature at any time if it's available to you. You can do this anytime you need just a little bit more time to catch up, to let your brain catch up, and it can also be helpful to pause and then rewind just if you need to at any time. And last, you can watch the video with someone else at home. Then you could pause often and you can talk to your partner about what you heard, about what you understood, and about anything you aren't sure about. All right, let's get to work. Now, I love finding ways to make my writing stronger. How about you? One of the ways we can do that is by combining sentences. So instead of having only simple sentences in our writing, we can combine simple sentences to create a more interesting sentence. Let's look at an example. Read these two simple sentences with me. Joe forgot his lunch. Joe had to buy a lunch. Okay, so these sentences are all right, but we can combine them to make a more interesting sentence. What if we used a conjunction or a linking word? Now, some common conjunctions are for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Let's see. Could we use any of those words to combine these two sentences about Joe? What if we used and to combine these? Let's see if that makes sense. Joe forgot his lunch and he had to buy his lunch. Well, that does make sense, but maybe there's a better conjunction that we could use to join these two. Let's try but. Joe forgot his lunch, but he had to buy his lunch. That doesn't really make sense because but shows opposite relationships, and we're not talking about that in this sentence. Do you see a conjunction that would work best? Perhaps you thought of the word so. Let's try it. Joe forgot his lunch, so he had to buy a lunch. Yes, that definitely makes sense and combines these two sentences into one more interesting sentence. Great. Let's try again with two new sentences. Mrs. Buchanan's students are polite. Mrs. Buchanan's students are helpful. How could we combine these two sentences? What if we try so again, since that worked last time? Mrs. Buchanan's students are polite, so they are helpful. Well, just because someone is polite doesn't really mean that that person has to be helpful too, does it? So that conjunction doesn't seem to be the best choice. How about for? Let's try that. Mrs. Buchanan's students are polite, for they are helpful. Well, that sentence really doesn't make sense at all, does it? For is not a conjunction that I can use to link these two sentences or ideas. Do you see a better choice? Maybe you chose the conjunction and. Let's give it a try. Mrs. Buchanan's students are polite and they are helpful. Yeah, that definitely makes sense, and it combines those two sentences very nicely. Now, sometimes you can just change the order of the words when combining sentences instead of using a conjunction at all to link them. Here's an example using the sentences we just worked with. Mrs. Buchanan's helpful students are polite. See how that links the two ideas, but doesn't use one of the conjunctions that we talked about today. So there are many ways to combine simple sentences to make our writing more interesting. And as we read today, we can find some examples of when the author does this, and maybe some opportunities for us to combine some of the author's simple sentences. Now, the summer reading activities you complete will all relate to culture. What is culture? Did you say culture is our way of life? That's right. Culture might involve the kinds of food that we choose to eat. It might involve the clothing that we wear, traditions we have and things that we celebrate, or things that we believe in. Now, people are all different, so all different people have all different cultures. And in all of the third grade summer reading activities, you'll be focusing on this essential or important question. What happens when two ways of life come together? Now, this question is asking about cultures. What happens when two different cultures or ways of life come together? And as we read today, I want you to specifically think about how all cultures have unique characteristics like clothing, because we are going to focus on special or unique clothing of one culture today. And in activity 2, we will continue on in the text and learn about some other cultures and their unique clothing. Now, the text we will read today is an expository text. That means it's nonfiction and will give us real facts and details about a topic that support a main idea. Now, the text might also provide us with helpful pictures, keywords, and other helpful features, such as maps or headings, to help us learn more about the topic. Don't forget, if you've already read the text that we are about to read together, don't worry one bit, because rereading is super important. And when we read a text more than once for a new purpose or reason, our reading brains get stronger. So if you've joined me for some lessons at home in the past few weeks, you know that we've had to be super reading sleuths, which means we are reading detectives who find our clues where? Right in the text. You might also remember that reading sleuths complete some very important steps whenever they read. These steps are: gather evidence, ask questions, make your case, prove it, and look for clues. Now, look for clues means that good readers always refer to the text, meaning they find clues right in the text, and we will be sure to do that. Ask questions. This is important because as you read, Asking questions will help you to focus more closely on the text and to be able to understand it better. Make your case means that you will use the important clues you found in the text to tell what you think or to make a statement. The writing task you can work on when we finish reading will be a great opportunity for you to make a case. And finally, prove it means that while you are making your case, you must use details from, you guessed it, right from the text to show or prove what you have learned. You might call this text evidence in your classroom. I know we call it text evidence in our classroom at Fountain City Elementary School. Here, we see our text. What's the title of this passage? Yes, the title is Clothes, Bringing Cultures Together. Well, that seems to support our purpose for reading today, doesn't it? We knew we would be reading about people's unique cultures and specifically all about how those cultures have unique characteristics like clothing. Do you see any text features that will be helpful to us as we read today? Right. I see the image at the bottom of this page, and it looks like a map. In fact, the map portion of this feature looks like a map that I've seen in third grade social studies, right? It looks familiar. Does it look familiar to you? Yeah, it sure does look like part of a world map. I see shapes of continents that I am familiar with. There's also something else on this map. Do you see what is shown? Right. It looks like there are pictures of different pieces of clothing, and they're pointing to different areas on the map. Perhaps that would help support our idea of different cultures having unique and different pieces of clothing. Did you also see more photos of clothing with labels on the right side of this text? Me too. How about the heading? Did you find a heading? Yeah, right there. When we get to it, that feature will help us know what that portion of text will be mostly about. Now, as I glanced at the text quickly, I saw one more feature that I think might help us as we read. Did you see it? Did you notice the pronunciation guides in the text? Do you see them underlined there? When we get to words we aren't sure how to pronounce, especially words that might be from a different culture or a different language, this text feature will be very helpful to us. Well, are you ready to dig deeper into the text? Me too. Let's do it. Let's read the first paragraph, where the bracket is, together now. Remember, our goal is to be thinking about how cultures have unique characteristics like the clothes that we wear. Let's see if this paragraph supports that idea at all. Next time you walk through town, look at the clothes people are wearing. You might see ponchos, blue jeans, and sneakers. You might see moccasins, t-shirts, and berets. Many of the clothes we wear today are new designs. However, some were first made in other countries or by other cultures long ago. They have become part of modern American fashion. Okay, so what did the author first want us to do? Yes, the author wanted us to look at the clothing people wear next time we walk around town. Okay, but right now I'm not walking around Knoxville. I'm in my house. But can we imagine the kinds of clothing people wear? Does the author give us any ideas to help us visualize this clothing? Right. The author mentions ponchos, blue jeans, sneakers, moccasins, t-shirts, and berets. Now, I know what some of those things are, but if I'm not sure about all of them, what might they all be? What do you think all of those things have in common? Did you think that they're all things people might wear? Me too. That seems to support our big idea, doesn't it? That there are lots of different cultures in our world, and cultures can affect the clothes we choose to wear. Did you also notice those pronunciation guides? Yeah, they helped us pronounce the words moccasins and berets. What a helpful text feature in this nonfiction text. Now, the author says that many of the pieces of clothing we wear are new designs that were created here in America. However, what does she say about some of the clothing we wear? Yes, some were first created in other countries by other cultures long ago. I also noticed that some of those pieces of clothing are shown on the map below. What do you think that map might be telling us about those pieces of clothing now that you've read this portion of text? Did you say it might be showing us which area of the world or which culture those types of clothing came from? That's what I think too. Great thinking. These styles of clothing are now all a part of our modern fashion here in America, the text says. What might modern mean? There's the word underlined there. Can you look in the text for any context clues? Did you say modern might be something that relates to more recent times or time now? Yes, perhaps a clue was that some of these types of clothing were created long ago, but they have become a part of our fashion now. This means they are modern because people wear them now here in America. Now remember, there is a heading at the top of this next portion of the text. And a heading is a helpful text feature that often gives us a better idea of what this portion of text will be about. So let's make sure we read that heading together now. South American ponchos. Okay, so it seems we will read about South American culture and what is the type of clothing that this portion of text will be about. Yes, it seems ponchos are the type of clothing that perhaps are a part of the South American culture. Let's read the next two paragraphs together where you see that bracket to see what we can learn about ponchos. Thousands of years ago, people of South America made and wore ponchos. A poncho is a square cloak. It has a hole in the middle for the wearer's head. South American ponchos were woven out of wool. The wool came from llamas and other pack animals. The ponchos were often decorated with flowers, birds, and people. Ponchos kept the wearers warm in cold weather. Okay, did you learn any interesting facts about ponchos in that portion of the text? Perhaps you learned that ponchos were created thousands of years ago. Where were they created thousands of years ago? Yes, in South America. So they originated or began in a different culture. We were right. Now, do you see how people in South America made ponchos long ago? It's underlined there. They used wool, a material from the fur of llamas and other pack animals, or animals that travel in groups or packs. Now, if you inferred that there were probably many llamas living in South America, you are right. This wool was a natural resource, another social studies connection there, that people of South America could use to make ponchos. Now let's look at that sentence again. Did you notice that the author used a conjunction or a linking word to combine what could have been two simple sentences? Take a look. What linking word or conjunction did she use? Right. The linking word is and. The author could have said the wool came from llamas. Then she could have written a second sentence that said the wool came from other pack animals. But instead, she used the word and to combine those two thoughts into one sentence. Have you ever seen a llama before? Here's a photo of one. How interesting is it that people of South America used llama wool to make their ponchos? Now, why were ponchos needed by the South American people long ago? Right, they kept the people warm in cold weather. Well, that's important. Now, let's read the last two paragraphs together to find out about ponchos in more modern times. Ponchos are still part of everyday wear in many South American countries. The style is much the same as it was long ago. During the 20th century, people in the United States began to wear ponchos. Americans liked their style and warmth. Ponchos were also adapted into rain gear. Rain ponchos are made of waterproof material. They often have hoods. Okay, so what did you learn about ponchos in South America today? Right. We read that people in South America still wear ponchos and that the style of these ponchos is still very similar to long ago. What did you learn about ponchos in America today? Yes, during the 20th century or the 1900s, people here in America started wearing ponchos too. Ponchos came from South American culture, but have now become part of American culture. That's pretty neat. This supports that essential question we saw today because two ways of life, South American and American culture, came together. South American ponchos became a part of American culture. Why? Exactly. The text says that Americans liked the style of ponchos and how warm they were. They also turned them into rain gear using a different waterproof material. Have you ever worn a rain poncho? Maybe you have. I have, and it kept me nice and dry when I was out in the rain. Now let's look back at the last two sentences that the author wrote. Let's read those again. Rain ponchos are made of waterproof material. They often have hoods. One of the ideas we focused on today was how to combine two simple sentences. Can you think of a way to combine these two? Perhaps you thought of the linking word and. Rain ponchos are made of waterproof material and often have hoods. Yes, that is definitely one way that we could combine those two sentences together. Okay, let's not forget to look at the photos we saw earlier and the caption with them. Now I see arrows pointing to pictures. One arrow says past and one says present. Now let's read the rest of this information together to find out more. The poncho above was made in South America more than 2,000 years ago. You might see the ponchos below on our streets today. Okay, so this is showing us in the top photo a poncho style from long ago in South America, while the other photos below show us examples of more modern ponchos. Well, that's where we'll stop today in the text, and we will finish reading this text in our next activity. You worked really hard and you referred to the text today for your text evidence, so good job with that. Now you're ready for a writing task. You finally get to make your case and prove it. Let's read the prompt together. Do you think ponchos are an important part of South American culture? What type or mode of writing is this? That's right, it's opinion writing. The prompt is asking us to tell what we think. Do we think ponchos are an important part of the culture or way of life of people in South America? Now, your job will be first to tell your opinion. Then you'll use text evidence to back it up or prove your opinion. What makes you think ponchos are or are not an important part of South American culture? Now, don't forget to explain how your text evidence supports your opinion. This is where you work really hard to explain your thinking based on text evidence. And then wrap up your writing by restating your opinion again. An extra challenge for you is to go back and combine some simple sentences after you finish your writing. Remember, that will make your writing more interesting. Wow, I am so proud of you. Let's go back and recap what we did today. We learned how to combine simple sentences to make our writing stronger. We read part of a text that supports the idea that all cultures have unique characteristics, like clothing. Specifically, this part of the text focused on ponchos and how they began as part of the South American culture. We have an opinion writing prompt to work on answering now that we have read this portion of the text. Wow, I had so much fun reading with you today, and I really hope you enjoyed reading with me and learning more about South American culture in regards to their clothing. I'm looking forward to our next summer at-home activity. We will definitely get to finish this text and wrap it all up with another fun writing task. I hope to see you then. This is Mrs. Buchanan saying goodbye for now. Stay safe, keep smiling, and keep learning. Bye-bye.